seated for the uppers, he's suggesting that you'll do those in all planes of motion without.
Can you do it with somebody?
I can, absolutely, absolutely. No, I forgot. Your seat face that direction. You might want to, it's sort of an all-around 360 view. So for the uppers, it looked like it was suggested on your list that arms are down, arms are crossed for the middle.
Oh yeah, upper thoracic T1 through 4, patient seated, arms down.
Yeah.
And then there's a second one, which is lower thoracic T5 through 12, patient seated, arms
Arms
crossed.
crossed.
E hands behind neck.
That's extension.
Extension.
Hands behind the.
E.
Pretty easy.
Awesome.
And we've touched on this for sure. So I can easily get after the uppers in this particular situation. So the planes of motion that we can assess in the thoracic spine are obviously P to A translation. At this point, I can probably take a thumb and forefinger against them just to see if there's good P to A translation. Flexion extension, essentially I can identify.
Ooh, back to
flexion
S1.
extension, in this sort of situation by taking 2 fingers on each of the spinous processes, see when they approximate and when they separate, right? As I get into the lowers, then I would use the arms crossed a little bit better. An alternative, which I taught you, was putting your arm across the shoulder as well, which is kind of similar to having the arms down. From this position, I can go to the transverse processes, and I can do lateral flexion to look for the separation and the approximation. I can also do it on the same side. You gotta have 2 adjacent transverse processes to demonstrate that sort of situation. And for rotation, I'll take contact on either the spinous process and push it away, or I'll use the transverse process. And again, we're in the uppers here. So I'll take contact hypothenar, use the thumb. When I get to the end, I'll challenge it, so this is, again, that slow acceleration to the end range and then challenge it, or on the spinous process, and then challenge it, which gives me a chance that I can.
So you did it either on the transverse and the spinous? You can do it on either one.
You can do it on either one, for sure, but it's kind of nice that, once you've established a rhythm and what you like to really experience. So when the patient's prone, rotation will be assessed monitoring the spinous process while I bang on
The transverse process.
Exactly, so it's a global sort of situation. Go ahead and cross your arms over your chest. Fantastic job. This just gives me a chance to control my patient in all planes of motion, essentially. So again, we can sort of consider flexion by just sort of feeling those spinous processes separate. You got to have 2 adjacent ones down in these middles now. You can get P to A translation. I mentioned honking the horn. You might probably want to not use that language, but if you want to, it's fine. I'm just going to use that hand-heel contact and just sort of just assess some global P to A translation. Then you get into lateral flexion, same thing. Here we've got control over the patient's torso and get into the lowers. And again, we're looking for the approximation of the separation of the transverse processes. And then rotation, it's the same thing. I can find a hypothenar or a thumb on the spinous process or on the opposite transverse process and assess essentially rotation. The key method's not bad if you want to do both sides. I like that. I'm sort of working with the thumb on this side on transverse and the knuckle on that side.
Cool.
For extension, go ahead and clasp your hands behind your head for us, please, and just wrap these here. So the best thing for extension is let your body just sort of rest into my hand. I've got control over the patient's extension now because I can lift up on their arm and encourage that extension. So it gives me a chance to assess the approximation of individual spinous processes. Thanks. Makes sense for seated motion palpation? This is going to be like a half-hour video. You're going to be.
No, it'll be quick. It'll be like 5 minutes, maybe.
It's possible. It probably will be.
How fast talk.
Yeah.
I would